Hello, thanks for checking the video. So this is a quick run through to the setup. That's for who downloaded the project file from my website or for the ones that are just interested and want to see how I did it. So it's been split in two simulations. The first one is for the branches, just this simulation, and the second simulation is for the leaves. So I'm going to show how I did it. So here we are inside the branch simulation. So here importing the model, splitting them, getting the branches here. First thing, I'm generating some splines from them, and this is done easily with, you can see, I just in a loop, I take a branch, I fracture it into several pieces, then generate some points and connecting them. And that's for each one of the branches. So after this, I convert them to some proxy geometry, and these are a lot of spheres, of course, and they're connected with some constraints that are generated over here. You can see them. I have also a second version, a variation that I think is better because it retains more the shape, which is the same concept, but instead of having spheres for the branches, what I did is with a polywire, I generate one of these, fracture it. If I do this exploded view, you can get it better. And the idea of this is that it's using the collision geometry to retain better the shape. Otherwise, with the spheres, is um, as like they lose it a lot. So it's up to you here if you want to use the switch or not. And, so this is the first simulation for the branches. After this, what I do is basically for the leaves, I need to identify to which branch they are attached to. So I basically do a lookup. These are like all nodes, but what I do is just define the correct branch, and you can see them here, which they are connected to the correct one. The tricky thing is that, for example, in these parts where you can't use really the near point function or just look at the closest branch because you can get these leaves to attach to this by mistake or vice versa, this maybe to this one. So you have to look, you have to take the points close to the branch, closest to the branch, and just use them to look for the correct one. This, and this is the part where I basically since the branches are breaking, you can see it here. So you see, this is breaking for the main one, and the main mesh is one unique piece. So what I need to do is to break them based on this geometry, basically. So again, in a loop for each branch, I create these points, which are going to cut each fragment of the branch, like to match these ones. And you can see basically if I do mm, name of the name primitive, okay, here it is. So it's basically breaking them based on the spheres. And then point deforming them and skinning them correctly. But you can see like, yeah, it's good, but this thing happens. So I have this post process that I use a lot for bending geometry. So after a Bernoulli fracture, and you basically merge them back. And this is like checking the distance between points, and if they're close to each other, they are snapped, but if the distance is too big of a threshold, which in this case is controlled by this function, they are going to keep that tip. Otherwise, it's like you get weird things happening. So now let's look at the leaves. Okay, so we are in the leaves setup. How to explain here? See, here I'm taking the pivot that will be here, basically close to the branch, and the leaves are going to move along this hinge. Then here I'm basically packing them and creating some proxy. So I reduce the poly count for each leaf. Sorry. Here I'm creating the constraints, and you can see them here. So the leaf is going to move there along this, and they are still constraints. The trick to make them follow the branch animation is to not assign a name of one extremity of them, which is going. So if you don't specify the name of it, they're going to follow the animation, and you can see them here. Meanwhile, the other is connected to the RBD leaf. But since the constraints tend to always keep their last length, so in this case it's set to 0, the leaf is going to follow the branch, and you're not going to see this difference in the simulation. This it's like initially this is the rest state, and then they're going to follow branch animation, which I don't have here, I think. But yeah, you get the point. This is the AppNet. This is the multi-solver, because I need also this one, which is to detach the no. Yeah, it's reading this external SOP, which is this one, and is setting the groups basically for leaves if they are going to be touched or not. We have this pop collision ignore, and this is just saying to each leaf to don't collide with all the others, because otherwise the simulation becomes a mess. We have then the constraints, which I've been using only this one, I think, but I have two variations for the constraints. It's up to you which one to use. And Yeah, here is the rules for breaking the constraints based on the force, the distance, or the torque attribute. And this is just the box. All these are just to give some wind, some movement to them. After they are detached, you see this specify the group here. You can change it how you want. Same for the spin. And this is just if they are close to the ground. Basically, they have this pretty powerful drag, so they don't act weird. They don't start to roll or keep the move, keep moving. And if I remember correctly, I've also this set here on the yeah, on the pop wind. So if they are really low on the ground, the wind is not applied. So this works well in a grid, in a flat plane. If you have a terrain, you have some little hill bump which is not flat, you need to do the same thing probably, but with the using the VDB sample. So you use the volume sample function and you test how close they are to the ground. But the concept is the same. It's just to keep the things easy. And after that, I'm just cashing them out. Here I'm taking the high resolution leaves and basically just using transform piece to move them. And that's it. Um, I ran through it quite quickly, but I think you get a better idea of the setup instead of just reading on my website. Thank you.